Okay. Welcome, all of you. It's lovely to see such a large group today. This is very exciting. As you know, Rachel Maxwell was here in early October to do a feasibility study to give us some guidance on what we believe we could raise in a capital campaign. So for tonight, we have invited Rachel back virtually, and she's going to begin, and she's going to go through her report, talk a little bit about what the feasibility study entailed, what she found, and then we will have a little bit of time for question and answer with Rachel before she goes back to her life, and then we'll do some next steps and where things are at for the capital campaign vote and the Building Our Future process. So it's going to be an evening full of information, and we are really thrilled to have you here, Rachel. It's been so great to work with you so far. The board has had the opportunity to hear her presentation, and we just were so enthusiastic that we wanted you all to be able to hear from her as well. So that's why we asked her back virtually rather than have one of us try to interpret her report. So now I'm going to just hand it over to Rachel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kim. Can y'all hear me okay? Yes? Yep. Okay, excellent. Well, lovely to be virtually among you. I am glad to see you and happy to be making this presentation from my home office in Edmonds, Washington, on the beautiful Salish Sea, land of the Coast Salish peoples. Here, and I think many of you know me already, but I work with a group called Stewardship for Us, which is a consulting group that helps Unitarian Universalist churches across the country with various stewardship needs, including capital campaigns. So I'm going to leave it at that and share my screen with you so that you can see the study as I go through it. Got that? I hope so, that you can see this. And this is a tree on your new property. So I like to begin with a sort of grounding words, and these are words from Leading from Within, poetry that sustains the courage to lead. Leaders live in the gap between what should be and what is. That is where the work that most needs doing resides. On one side of the gap, our dreams, our aspirations, our best hopes for each other and our communities call to us. On the other side is the world as we know it, beset with human frailty, strife, and pent-up hope. It is here, amidst complex and competing forces that pull and yank on their time and beliefs, that leaders do their work. And I share that with you because I feel very firmly now, having had conversations with 50 of your households, very personal conversations in many ways, that you are leaders and that your desire to move and build is an example of your living into a future as leaders in your community. So I introduced myself. I'm going to pass over this. Your mission, which is behind all that you do, is to be a compassionate, welcoming community that nurtures spiritual growth and practices justice. So a financial feasibility study, which is what I was doing when I was among you a few weeks ago, is a study to essentially just determine the feasibility of your project, whatever it is you want to raise money for. And it involves essentially long personal interviews with households in your congregation. I like to use a sample of a minimum of 20% of the households in a congregation. And then I do a lot of data analysis to determine what it is that might be reasonable and likely for you in terms of fundraising capacity for the project that you have identified. And while doing that, I do a host of other things, including identifying some major gifts and also legacy gifts, and thinking about and figuring out some campaign strategies for your generosity team. So this allows you to be able to conduct a campaign, understand, essentially move forward in a project, understanding how much it is likely that your congregation will be able to raise for that project so that you can make it a project you can actually do. It also helps you message and your campaign to members, because I learn a lot about what it is that members care about. And it can give you the confidence to go forward, because you know that it has been carefully studied what it is that you might do, and that I have taken a look at how ready you are for this campaign. So this is, I know it's a lot of words on a page, and I apologize for that, but this slide deck that I'm showing you is also the report that you are getting for this feasibility study. And I just want to briefly say that this is about what I understand you to be and where you are at. So you are a really remarkable congregation in terms of your engagement in your congregation and also with your larger community. You are a strong congregation, which with a very strong staff as well, so that you love and you recognize that you're low conflict and very healthy. So, and you have things in place to move forward well with this project and campaign. Your Building Futures group has done a remarkable job in preparing for all of this. So we selected participants for your feasibility study, those 20% of households. What I like to have is diverse a look at your congregation as possible. So I make sure that all your giving quartiles, that's like, basically it's all the representation of levels of giving throughout the congregation. And I like to see other kinds of diversity as well, different levels of involvement, different lengths of time of membership, ethnic, racial, age, family type, all of that. So we do our best to get that. And I also like to be sure to include the top quartile of givers in order to be able to identify major giving. And Reverend Luke and Gail and Connie Schulke did this with my input, created the list of people to invite. So, so I did 50 face-to-face interviews with households. That was with 78 different people in those different interviews, and that was exactly 20% of your 250 pledging households. The most recent annual pledges represented by those folks accounted for 48% of your total annual giving for this last year, or annual pledging, I should say. And their pledges for this last year ranged from $300 to $25,000. So you can see how that is a representative sample, but it's clearly weighted toward the higher givers. So everybody was asked the same set of questions, and the analysis I did included both quantitative and qualitative factors. So here's just the demographics. You can see some of it is quite spread out, some isn't, but this is who it was, probably quite a reasonable representation of your congregation. More demographics. This is about attendance. What do people come online or in person, and how often do they come? And these are folks, you know, most of the people I spoke to were involved in some way now, and that meaning they were on a board or a committee or a team. This could be everyone from someone who sings in the choir or greets, or to someone who sits on your board. So the feasibility study, this just shows you that how many families in each quartile were interviewed. So you can see that in the top quartile, what a quartile is when you take the total amount of the pledges, meaning, you know, does it all add up to $500,000, and you divide that by 4. So you take $125,000, and then you figure out, you stack up all the pledges by size, and the top quartile are the people who make up the first $125,000, the largest pledges making up the first. And then the bottom quartile, or the fourth quartile, is all the people who make up $125,000, who start with the lowest pledge and move up from there. So I interviewed a sort of, I would say more or less the same number of people in each quartile, sort of heavier weighted in the middle. But
Rachel?
Yeah.
I was just going to mention to the folks in the room, all of these slides will be available as PDF, as well as to be able to be viewed in the recording of this too. So if you, for some reason, can't see all the detail from the screen, they'll be available to you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. And feel free to interrupt me at any time to say, you know, ask a question, or if I haven't made something adequately clear. So, so the questions that I ask people cover people's relationship with the congregation and important times for them in the congregation, and then their familiarity with the project, and their engagement with the visioning process, and their support for the project, and how important they think it is. They cast a personal vision for me, and then they tell me how important the project is to that vision. Also their likely financial contribution to the campaign, and I ask questions about what might affect your level of giving, and I ask about what compliments and what concerns do you have, and I ask everybody how they might volunteer. So, some of the results of this were that participants were remarkably familiar with what was going on, which makes sense to me. 95% indicated they were either very familiar or somewhat familiar with the project, and 91% had reviewed the preliminary plans from the architect, which is amazing and excellent. 73% attended the locus presentation, and they thought the average rating for effectiveness of the engagement in the project was 8.5 out of 10, which is very high. Everybody said that an excellent, or many people said they felt an excellent effort was made to engage everybody through multiple different channels. So I do ask, what is a key strength of the congregation? And people really talked about people and community, like that they told me stories about walking through the door and recognizing people they knew from other parts of their lives, being so totally surprised. It was lovely to hear. And then people cast a vision. What is your vision for the future of this congregation 5 years down the road? And I would invite all of you to consider that, maybe take a notes on what it is that you hope for 5 years down the road. The more you do that, the more that will become. But folks had all sorts of wonderful things they said. And the ones here are: the building process would be joyous. We would realize we were building a future as others had built a future for us. We are a visibly public presence in precarious times. We are a catalyst for important spiritual connection and community in the work of justice. We are a public ministry. We are thriving, robust, resilient, and growing. It was very, very lovely to hear the visions people cast. More visions. I'm not going to read you all of these, but I would just invite you to go look at this slide deck and read them, because it will warm your heart and inspire you to think about your own vision. So folks think the new facility is very important to the future of the congregation. I ask about a scale of 1 to 10. The project was given an average rating of 8.8 in importance to the future of the congregation. Only 8 of the 78 participants scored it less than 8 in importance to your future, which is amazing and high. And a lot of people said, I can't, we'd survive. I can't give it a 10. I'd like to give it a 10. I can't give it a 10. I decided that was sort of a Midwestern thing, but we would survive, but our current location limits us, I think sums it up, as one congregant said. So folks thought it was important to their personal visions. And so there you go. It is an important thing you are doing, you feel. So, so the quantitative analysis, I do multiple different quantitative ways of looking at it, but I do use the giving levels indicated. So I use the giving levels indicated to extrapolate to some degree, not in a direct way, meaning their annual giving levels compared to their capital giving levels, and then what are the ones that are missing. Anyway, it's kind of fun math. So what people said, potential contributions totaling between $1.9 million and $2 million basically were indicated by the people in the study. So these are just the study participants said they were likely to pledge in this range. This is 7.2 and 7.8 times the annual giving of the participants. So the average, I always like to look at that multiple. What is it times? Remember, you might remember that years, what was it, 2 years ago maybe, when I was there doing the next steps process, I said that the typical congregation is able to raise between 3 and 5 times their annual giving. So that is the kind of general rule. And so part of what we were doing was looking at what this might be. So those households indicated these things. And the average of those of their multiples was 6.7, and the median, so the very middle of the different multiples for each household that indicated something, was 4.4. The multiple itself ranged in those 50 households from 0.1 to 44 times annual giving for the participant household. So it's different for every household. And the gifts indicated for the campaign ranged from $0 to $300,000. And 98% of the participant households indicated they planned to make a gift. 71% of the 49 gifts indicated in the study were over $10,000, and 12% were a commitment of over $100,000. So here's what I showed people, a gift chart that had the 3 blue parts. So this is a gift chart that has 220 households on it and adds up to $3 million, being able to raise $3 million. That's what I showed people. That would have $3 million, just for all of you all's information, is more than 5 times. It's about 6 times your annual giving. And then the gifts indicated in the study are on the right in the yellow part. There they are, adding up to $1.9 million. And there were 49 gifts. That one, oh, here, amazing fact. That's what I wrote at the bottom here. At least 6 major gifts of $10,000 or more were indicated from participants in all 4 of your giving quartiles. So, what do I think you can actually raise? Once you go out to the whole congregation, I believe you will be able to raise between 2.9 and $3.2 million. That's 5.2 to 5.8 times total annual giving for the congregation. And if you really pushed it, you might be able to raise 3.5 million, but that's unlikely. Yay! You are a remarkably generous people. So here you are, ready to roll. My conclusion is you are ready to roll, and I am looking forward to working with you because you are delightful, amazing people. That it is a pleasure to be among you and to think about the future of Unitarian Universalism in Rochester and environs. So the next things to do, I would recommend that you proceed on your new building plan based on the idea that you can raise about $3 million from the congregation. And so here we are presenting the study to you. These are the next steps. You need to set a campaign goal and vote on whether or not to proceed with the campaign, and then and develop financial scenarios for the next 5 years based on probable costs and benefits of your new building. I think that's really, really important for you because people talk to me a lot about the possible revenue benefits to the new building, like ways that you might actually be able to generate additional income. And I think that you need to sort of write all of that down so that you can see what it might look like. And you need to plan for possible relocation to a temporary space, have the architect create plans that allow for the possibility of your growth and expansion in the future, because it seems like you're a pretty growing congregation and you need to put your building on the market. So here are my closing words, which I took from listening to the dedication of this beautiful land that's been in many of my pictures. Here we will welcome with compassion. Here we will nurture spiritual growth. Here we will practice justice. May it be so. Amen.
Isn't she awesome? Thank you, Rachel, for the presentation. What we would like to do is have a little bit of an opportunity for questions specific to Rachel, specific to the feasibility study. And then to respect Rachel's time, we'll let her go while the Building Our Future shares some next steps. And then we can take questions specific to those things as well. So does anybody have any questions that we could offer to Rachel at this time? Must have been a very thorough report. No? Any comments or anything you would like to share before we let Rachel go? I would just like to say I appreciate her enthusiasm. I appreciate the investment of her time. I can't imagine how exhausting it was to be here and interview 49, 50 families for an hour for each one, and then go off. She went to Iowa to visit her son and ended up with COVID, so she sat in a hotel room and put our whole report together. So it's an amazing investment of her time. I can't imagine how exhausted you must have been at the end of it. But it's such valuable information for us to let us know what it is we can raise and give us the confidence in going forward. So before we let Rachel go, one more time, any questions or comments from the crowd? All right, Rachel, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Bye-bye all.
Little slideshow here, and we'll talk about next steps for the Building Our Future team came up with. So what we're going to talk about here is the capital campaign process. That's the only one I have memorized. There we go. The vote for the capital to approve the capital campaign. We have a fundraiser match opportunity coming up, and what are the next steps in this whole process? All right. Gail, do you want to come on up and talk about the capital campaign process? Gail is leading the generosity team and the capital campaign work. So we're so grateful when we have somebody who likes to ask people for money.
So I'll give you a basic timeline of things that will be happening. Once we have the results of the vote, which will be next Sunday, that's the end of the voting on the 12th, then we'll know if we're going to proceed or not. We've done a lot of background work in the meantime. We have a number of volunteers that have been already working on it. Sure, we have things in place with other volunteers that we're going to be meeting to make the campaign a success. The campaign is going to be a combined campaign with the annual giving that we do every year. And that, of course, runs from June 1st to May 31st, so we'll be able to pay that as we normally do. But your campaign, your steward will be visiting with you about that. And it's going to be combined with the capital campaign. So you'll be asked to do your annual gift and the capital campaign pledge at the same time. The annual campaign pledge, or the capital campaign, actual campaign pledge, will be paid over a 3-year period. So that makes it doable, and it takes all of us to make this work and to be successful. And one of the biggest volunteer groups that we'll need will be our visiting stewards, and we'll need about 50 or 60 of you who are willing to have conversations with each other about your gift. And believe it or not, you're not talking about money. You're talking about why you love this place. You're talking about the future. You're talking about the vision of this church. And your generosity will follow from that. But that individual steward will probably meet with 3 or 4 other households. So we do need 50 or 60 of you. We have a number of folks who volunteered already through the feasibility study who are interested, but we need to be able to help us out here, so I'll be inviting some of you to see if you're interested in this particular job. Rachel's coming back on February 3rd and 4th to do training for you, so that you feel comfortable having these priceless conversations with everyone. And then the actual general kickoff for the campaign will be on Valentine's Day, on February 14th, 6 p.m. here at the church. And we hope to run the campaign for a month and have it all completed and all the loose ends tied up before we've done this sabbatical in the spring. So that's basically the general timeline. There'll be more information coming in the e-news from our team and as we need your support. And I just might say that this capital campaign is one of those, I look at congregational life in terms of singular moments that impact us all. And this is one of those singular moments that we often share, because it takes all of us to do that. And just imagine the ripple effects of this moment being felt by generations to come, by people that we will never know or meet, because we won't be here. And every time that we walk through the doors of this church, we are the direct recipients of the generosity of generations over 50 years ago. And they too dreamed of a new church home, not just for themselves, but for people that they'll never meet, for us. And we have this opportunity to carry that forward, and that's an incredible wonderful milestone and something that we all want to be part of. And I know that this campaign will be successful because we are more than an ordinary church, and we are more than just a group of people that gather on Sunday morning, so much more in the spirits that we share with the students will emphasize that. That's all I have for now, for more things to come.
Thanks, Gail.
So at first I thought the stewards had to go out, and ask for money. And Gail assured me that, no, it's about sitting down and talking about why we love this place and why these are our people and why we want to continue to grow this place. And I can do that. So I agreed to do that, and I hope that you'll join in the team that helps make this dream come true. But to start that, next slide, Luke, we got to have a capital campaign vote. And what that capital campaign vote does, it just says that as a group, as a congregation, we approve of moving forward, and we say, yes, we want to work together to raise the funds to build this next church home. So today, that is the first forum on the feasibility study, and the capital campaign vote will open today. And you will get an email with an opportunity to vote online. But you can also vote on paper, and I encourage you to do so before you leave if that's what you would like to do. On Sunday, we will repeat this forum. We will share the video of Rachel and her presentation, and then be available to share the rest of the details and answer questions. The voting continues November 12th through 17th, both in person and online, and it will close Friday, November 17th at noon. So we have a week and a half that people can vote, and the results will be announced in church on Sunday, November 19th. Here's what your ballot will look like, whether you do online or paper. It says, I, a member of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Rochester, Minnesota, agree that we should launch a capital campaign to support the construction of a new church home with the goal of raising at least $3 million. So based on Rachel's study of a $2.9 to $3.2 million capital campaign, the board has set a goal of $3 million. Now, it'd be great if we could get to a 3.5 stretch, but we'll see what happens. So you'll have the opportunity to vote yes, we should launch this capital campaign, or no, we should not. We need to have a vote and hear from you so that we can move forward with the next steps and have Rachel come back, find our stewards, train our stewards, and then begin the process. We do have an exciting fundraiser match opportunity that will be announced this Sunday. Claire Langton-Yanowitz family, if you were here for her presentation on giving, she mentioned this at that forum. They, and along with Diane Langton and Alan Yanowitz together, they have generously offered to a Building Our Future match fundraising opportunity between now and the end of the calendar year to help with the upfront and ongoing architectural and civil engineering costs. This is something that's a tradition in their family, that they like to find an organization to give money. And this year, we are the beneficiaries of that. Though the Langton-Yanowitz families will match all funds raised by the congregation between now and the end of the year that are given towards the Building Our Future Fund at 50 cents on the dollar up to $10,000. Which means if the congregation is able to raise $20,000, they'll provide $10,000 for a total of $30,000 towards the Building Our Future Fund. Isn't that amazing?
But I have a logistics question. Is that 30,000 in cash or 30,000 in pledge?
This is separate from your capital campaign pledge. So I didn't read that part, but right here. So what we're asking, we've done this all along throughout the process. If you're able to give some funds early, because there are so many expenses that come with the architect and the civil engineer. And we have had some incredibly generous members of the congregation who have given what they can, whether that is $20 or much more than $20. And that has helped us pay a lot of our upfront costs. We're not dipping into our operations budget at all to pay the upfront costs. And we have been able to handle all those without having to take out a loan and pay interest to the bank. So, we'd like you to please consider giving to the Building Our Future Fund as part of your holiday giving to help us build this future. So, what are our next steps for the building process? We need to complete the congregational vote for the capital campaign, which opens tonight. And the results of the vote will be announced on Sunday, November 19th. The design work of a two-story building is continuing with efforts to incorporate as many ideas as possible. There was so much information that the congregation gave, and we're trying to incorporate and share all of that with the architects. Prior to beginning the capital campaign, though, the designs will be shared with the congregation because you need to be able to see what it is you want to, what you're giving towards. After the congregational approval of the capital campaign through this vote, we kick off the capital campaign on Wednesday, February 14th. Mark the calendars and join us here for a funding thing. We are also hoping to raise $3.5 to $4 million from the sale of this building. We have received estimated building costs after we have the estimated building costs for the new building. The board will determine the timing for selling the current building. It is possible that the current building will be listed for sale in early December or early January, somewhere around there. And it is expected that the process of selling this building could take at least 6 to 9 months. One of the things I've learned is that sale of a commercial building to the developer is a very long process. It's not like the sale of your home where you have a closing in 6 to 8 weeks. To a commercial developer, it's a very long process. So we will have probably likely lots of headway once the building is sold. In terms of a sale, the terms of a sale would determine whether or not we can continue to use the building, rent back the building on Sunday, or if we need a transitional space while we build our new home. But we do have multiple options in our pocket based upon the situation. And there are, millions of square feet available for rent in town because of how working from home has changed things, but we have other options as well. But we really can't answer what we would do until we know, because it would be really nice if we could just run back our space and use it in conjunction with somebody else. We'll find out. Questions? There's got to be questions this time.
That last slide. Go back to one more back. Design work of a two-story building is continuing. What's the status of the design of the one-story building?
What we discovered when we got information from all of you was that there really was kind of leaning towards a preference for the two-story building, that the land offered. It fit better with a two-story building, kind of a walkout design with that little ridge there. The other, the space fit better with the one story, so that's how, based on the feedback of the congregation, that's how we're moving forward right now. It's not a final decision. Go ahead. Is there a time frame when that would be a final decision? I think we're getting pretty close, and I think that the design that will be shared prior to the capital campaign will be very close to the final decision. Will it be exactly the final? No. We'll probably have to tweak some things here and there based on construction estimates and the land, but I think we'll be fairly close. Other questions?
House and kind of website or presence online in terms of the website, presence online, people can see purpose, mission, status.
For the building thing? Okay. Don't know about, are you able to go to the church website? We do have a presence online in the Building Our Future website. And it's linked right on the home page. So if you go to uurach.mn,